Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Sports Illustrated's Fan Nation, Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast, part of the Fans First Sports Network. I'm Hondo Carpenter, joined by my colleague from thespun.com and one of my best friends on planet Earth. I love this guy like my own brother, the great Matt Hladek. We've been friends for so long, and not just media. We started in media, but then just became great friends. I got to tell you, Matty, before we get into today's podcast, so Duff graduated and just turned 18 yesterday. Brother, I'm feeling old.
I can imagine. I remember the first time I met Duffy, he must have been 10 or 11.
Yeah.
So, yeah, time goes fast. I can't believe he's heading to college.
Yeah, geez, oh, Pete. So, Matt, we got a lot of subjects to cover, and I want to get into them. And it's all Raiders today. Pro Football Talk comes out with a report. Could the Raiders, if Josh Jacobs has till the 17th of July to sign his franchise tag. If he doesn't, could the Raiders cut him and go for Dalvin Cook? Could they? Yes. But I'm telling you right now, that is not in the plans. That is not anything that's a possibility. The Raiders love Josh. Josh loves the Raiders, regardless of what he tweeted out about having to do things for the future and everything else. That is not an expectation. And according to people I talked to, and factually, literally sitting here getting ready to do this podcast, was I not texting?
That's true.
So
I can vouch.
yeah, so no, that's not even blowed off. But I'm curious. Saquon Barkley had a lot of comments. We talked about this in yesterday's podcast about NFL, and they tagged the top three running backs allegedly, or the top three free agent ones. And then Josh Jacobs goes and tweets about at some point we got to do stuff for people in the future. Here's the problem that I have. Players can do whatever they want. I have no issue if a player wants to hold out. I don't care. I don't get into people's money. There's no contract. They're in the middle of negotiating. I have no issue. I have an issue with guys who have contracts and want to hold up. I don't have issues with guys that don't have contracts and want to hold out. But when you start seeing people, this is unfair, it's wrong. Well, the NFLPA agreed with it. So if you're mad at anybody, be mad at the NFLPA. Don't be mad at the NFL. Don't be mad at fans that want you to show up. And Josh Jacobs certainly hasn't done anything like that. I'm not implying this towards Josh. But I understand why running backs don't like it, because they don't have a shelf life like other positions. They do take a rabid beating. But it's also, let's not pretend like they don't get compensated. If a Dalvin Cook can get cut, anybody can get cut. That's the nature of the running back position. Your thoughts?
Well, I think you're seeing, there was a little bit of a boost in the running back market a couple of years ago, maybe, or at least, Alvin Kamara got a nice contract, Christian McCaffrey, Joe Mixon. But now you're starting to see, this offseason is really a wake-up call, I feel like, for the running back market because, like you said, Dalvin Cook gets cut. He's had injury problems, yes, but he still was productive from a statistical standpoint when he was healthy last year with the Vikings. Was still under contract. They cut him. Saquon Barkley, when healthy, one of the best running backs in the NFL. Josh Jacobs, when healthy, one of the best running backs in the NFL. They get the franchise tag. And I don't think it's an indication of the Raiders and the Giants, what they think about those guys as players. I think they both really like and respect and value what they bring to the table as players. The problem is the position they play. It is such a position with such a big turnover and a short shelf life, like you said, that you're seeing teams be really hesitant to pay for backs in a salary cap league. And I think that you're starting to see this is a little bit of a fork in the road because I'm always of the opinion I don't see guys holding out for an entire season. I know Le'Veon Bell did it a couple of years ago, and look at what happened. His career was never the same. He never got back to the level he was at before he held out. So I can't see Saquon Barkley or Josh Jacobs not playing football this fall. But I do understand where they're coming from, taking a little bit more of a hard line stance, at least publicly, against the tag. or arguing for a long-term deal, because the longer this goes along, this will become more of the standard operating procedure when it comes to paying running backs or not paying running backs, or how teams approach running back contracts for years to come.
Hmm. I'd like to get in with you a little bit because I think that I'm fascinated by the National Football League. The draft is only 7 rounds, and there's a lot of UDFAs right now that have impacted the league. I was told something over the weekend, and I'll be glad to tell you off air who the general manager was. But I had a general manager tell me this weekend that the best teams in the NFL, because it is a salary cap league, if you look, the best teams are the most successful signing UDFAs and utilize, because those guys come cheap. It allows you to pay your top end guys, but the way it is, the Raiders have taken this approach. We're going to use a lot of role players. Yep, we'll pay the big money for Devontae. Yep, we'll pay big money when big money's necessary. But I really admire and I respect the Raiders being so careful with their salary cap. You're not going to see them get in trouble with their salary cap. And the role of a UDFA in a salary league is so important. Would you talk a little bit about that?
UDFA, of course, and not just UDFA, even finding guys that are contributors in the fifth, sixth, seventh round that can come in and play special teams from day one and can eventually work their way either into a rotation on defense or play a little bit on offense. And you finding those type of gems, those contributors, go a long way to helping you with a salary cap in a salary cap league. And that's, I feel like, a New England principle, something that Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels brought with them to Vegas. You look at over the years how the Patriots handled contracts. They were hesitant to spend big money in free agency. They've started to do it more now because they had more holes. But for years, they didn't want to spend a ton of money in free agency. They wouldn't necessarily splurge on even their own guys unless it was somebody that they really felt strongly about, they wanted to keep around. They did a great job of kind of drafting and developing lower round guys and or finding gems as undrafted free agents and turning them into productive players. And that's how they kind of kept that machine going for all those years. Obviously, of course, it helps to have Tom Brady as your quarterback. That was the first and foremost be all and end all of what made them go. But you do need to find that support system, and that's where the UDFAs and the late round draft picks come in.
Totally agree with you. All right, I want to dig in on the salary cap. I think it has been great for the National Football League. I think it has made the game better. I think of all the leagues that have salary cap, it's the NFL is the best one. I just like it. I like it. I think it's good for the players. I mean, look at the Oakland A's. They're an embarrassment to Major League Baseball, and they're wanting to move here where the Vegas is, and I'm all for it. I'm the city and I'm putting tens of millions of dollars or the state into them. I wanted a promise from them. What percentage of your revenue is going to be put to put a competitive team out there? Because we don't want you coming here and just offering crap on a stick for our state and our city. I think the NFL salary cap is fantastic. I think it's fair to the players. I think it's fair to the league. Matter of fact, you want to know the truth? I think it's very fair to the players. I think the salary cap's better for the players in the league. But give me your thoughts on it. I think it's helped the NFL to remain at the top as the most popular league.
Well, I think the thing that's good about it compared to, say, a league like Major League Baseball, where there isn't a salary cap, um, but there is a luxury tax, is a lot of owners, even the richer ones, like guys out, the Yankees and some of these other big market franchises, they're treating the salary tax brackets on the thresholds as almost a de facto, um, the luxury tax bracket, excuse me, as almost a de facto salary cap, which is not good because that limits spending. It curtails how much they're willing to invest in their team. The A's, I mean, is basically the movie Major League come to life in terms of they're basically trying to spend as little money as possible and lose and move to a new city, move to Vegas. I think that with the way the NFL is set up with the salary cap is that it entices teams to spend money And you don't want, there's no, obviously no set salary floor, but nobody really, you have to spend something to at least put forward a halfway competitive product. And the cap also, it, that's the word I'm looking for. Enhances also, but it kind of fosters, excuse me, it fosters, um, the parity and fosters the kind of there's a couple of teams that are always near the top, maybe with the elite quarterbacks, but other than that, you have a lot of changing and churning over of the playoff races each year, partially because of the salary cap, because teams just can't load up on guys for 5, 10 years, or they have to worry about how they allocate their resources. So I think it also kind of enhances that parity. It fosters, the competitiveness that the league thrives on to keep fans engaged and to keep cities engaged. So I think there's a lot of practical utilities to it that make a lot of sense that have helped the NFL overall over the years.
And Matt, I think Raider fans should be pretty encouraged when they look at, all that, the Raiders have done with Dave Ziegler and showing salary cap discipline in the way they've approached building this roster and retooling. I know every time I say retooling, I get so many emails, hate mails, but the point of the matter is, regardless what word you want to use, I do think that's something that should encourage fans. Am I wrong there?
No, I think so too, and I think that anytime you see, um, I always look at it as like a fan is I think that the only thing that's worse than ownership and a front office that isn't getting the job done and has been incompetent or has been, lacking in certain areas is an ownership and a front office that just doesn't care. That's apathetic. It doesn't care about spending money, doesn't care about winning, only cares about uh, putting money in their own pockets and lining their coffers. Um, to me, I think that, listen, eventually caring and spending money, you have to show something. You have to win games. There has to be the proofs in the pudding. However, I think that by being willing to put your resources back into the team and spend and try to build something there as opposed to just pocketing them will always engender some goodwill with you and the fan base, especially if you're on a little bit of a lean years or you're rebuilding or retooling, like you said. So I think that kind of commitment definitely goes a long way.
So next, I want to end on the Raiders. Um, Another question about the Raiders. My job, and you've known me a long time, this has always been the way I've done my job. I'm not a fan. And my job isn't to be a fan for the franchise nor a hater. My job is to give people information and then allow them to draw any conclusion that they want. I think you and I agree. Um, I don't think we agree on a lot. I mean, I think there are some things we disagree on politically, but I think we both agree on this,
Mm-hmm.
that I'm tired of the media, whether it's business, politics, or sports, treating people like they're idiots. Just give me the information and let me draw my own opinion. I think you and I agree on that. Is that true?
Definitely, without a doubt,
Yeah.
100%.
And so when I tell people, I think that the Raiders are going in the right direction, the responses I get a lot are you kidding? They inherited a playoff team. They went to 6 wins. Okay. I get that. Now, if you want to look at the year before when they went to the playoffs, it was a great coaching job by Rich Bisaccia and that team. Great job. You can't deny that. I don't think anybody would deny it, including Josh McDaniels. But they won a lot of close games. Last year, they lost a lot of close games. I don't think I'm not using the term rebuild because I don't think it is a rebuild. I do think it is a retooling, which again is going to get me a ton of hate mail. But I don't think the Raiders are as far as people think. Am I right or wrong?
I think a lot will come down to what happens at the quarterback position, whether it's with Jimmy Garoppolo, if he's able to stay healthy for this year and the next couple of years he's under contract, and who supplants him. That will go a long way in determining what direction the Raiders are on if they have stability and success at that position. Obviously, the jury's still out on Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels on their second year, but if they can find a steady plan at that position with Jimmy Garoppolo and then a successor, that goes a long way in solidifying them as being the long-term answer. Look, again, elsewhere other than the quarterback position, we talked about the offensive line. They have Colton Miller, who's locked in there. He's a stud at left tackle. What guys are going to step up and be those building blocks alongside him? Max Crosby, we know what he can do at defensive end. Who's going to be a building block with him on the defensive side of the ball? This year will go a long way, I think, in determining those things, which I think we'll know by this time next year. We'll have a lot better answer about the direction that the Raiders are going in under Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels.
Totally agree with you, 100%. And I'm going to say this right now. And I've said it before, if Jimmy Garoppolo is not healthy for 17 games, this is an utter fail by Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels. They own it. It is an epic, epic fail. And I'll call it that. And if he fails and they got to go with a rookie, they complete next year. Unless it's Aiden O'Connell, well, they have a year to develop, but it's an epic fail and it's on them. But if he stays healthy for 17 games, they deserve all the credit in the world too. So I think, and I've said to you, I wouldn't have done it. Mm-hmm. They did. So they get the joy of living with all the credit or all the blame. It's going to be fascinating to watch, isn't it?
That's why they're paying him the big bucks.
I totally agree. From Sports Illustrated's Fan Nation, Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast, part of the Fans First Sports Network, I'm Hondo Carpenter, joined by my buddy, the editor and publisher of thespun.com. Man, yeah, every one of you. By the way, we've brought you quite a big, large group of people now who are reading the Spun and loving your stuff. But I got to read you. Andy, I had 2 emails this week I got to show you. Andy says, Hondo, tell Matt, I don't know his last name, but the Russian guy.
Close enough.
He's not Russian, but I thought that was funny.
Close enough.
Tell him put more Raiders stuff up there. I'm trying to read them every day, but there's not always a lot of Raiders. But what I love about your site is that it's whatever's trending in the world of sports, any sports, you guys got it there. You do a great job at the Spun. Thanks for joining us, Matt.
Anytime, man. Always a pleasure.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next time.